Why take FPL advice from one expert when you can take advice from 100 of them?
Welcome to FPL Mate, my name is Dan, and after a couple of weeks of rolling, our experts are going crazy on the transfers this week. So whether you are on a bench boost and need a new defender, or you're wondering who the best captain is, we've got you covered in today's video. So a massive shout out to the 100 experts that helped us out with their data this week. Massive shout out. There's some really good data this week. We've got so much transfer data that I've been inputting today. It's taken a little while, but I hope it is going to be worth it. So big shout out to these guys. Let's see what they're up to. So it is transfer week. That is certainly true, with very few transfers being rolled this week. In fact, only 8% of our experts are making no transfers in game week 33. After that, we see 5% on a wild card or a free hit, 1 person on a wild card, 4 free hits, but the rest, it's all about those transfers. 24% making just 1 transfer, so actually the minority among the transfer making experts. 36% making 2 transfers, and there's actually 27% here making 3 or more transfers, with actually 8% making 4 transfers this week. So people are going crazy, people are having some fun. There are a few hits being taken, but generally not a terrible huge amount. But in general, if you've been saving up those transfers, it is time to finally spend them and take advantage of the big double game week 33. So let's have a look at some of those transfers, and then we'll go through chip strategy and captains and everything else. One more note though before we go ahead with that: 61% of our experts are using the bench boost this week. So that is going to play a big part of transfer strategy this week. Mostly people looking to maximize the amount of double game week players they have in their starting 11 and on their bench as well. So that is why we're seeing so many transfers this week. And I guess one more note on assistant manager. We do have a few of our experts on the assistant manager. This is their final week of their assistant manager chip. And the ones who have Eddie Howe are usually transferring him out for Arteta, and the ones who have Glasner are sticking with Glasner. So yeah, maybe that helps you out if you are on an assistant manager right now. But if you're on a bench boost, man, we've got some good data for you today. So going through the top global picks, these are the most popular players in the overall player base, the most transfers overall. We do see Marmoush as the #1 transfer in this week, followed closely by the likes of Saka and Rodgers. A few other players in here that all have double game weeks. It seems that the most popular transfers are those double game week players. However, do our experts agree with any of these? Well, there's been no movement on Marmoush. He has got no new transfers in among experts, but we're going to find out just how many experts own Marmoush in their FPL team later in the video. Big changes for Saka, Rodgers and De Bruyne. They seem to be pretty popular. Saliba, Gvardiol and Watkins also seeing some interest, but not really too much change on Timber, Raya and Eza this week. Another thing that is probably worth noting here is that the #2 transfer in among experts is actually not even on this list. The second most popular transfer, it is a defender. They seem to be incredibly popular, and that really surprised me just how popular they are. This new defender that the experts seem to love. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting your opinion on that one. But first of all, let's see who the experts are transferring out. And Jacob Murphy is the guy being transferred out. 76% owned in game week 32, but with 56 transfers out this game week, his ownership is being slashed. Even more so when you include those on a free hit as well. So he is going to be a player not in too many teams, but still around 20% of our experts will be holding on to him. So it's not like literally everyone is selling Jacob Murphy, but it is the vast majority of our experts. So if you have him in your team, it might be time to remove him and see if you can find a nice double game week midfielder to replace him with. And believe me, we've got a few nice suggestions today. Livramento is the second most popular transfer out, with 28 transfers out for him. There will still be some experts holding on to Livramento for their team this week, but again, most of them will be removing him, with the final few maybe leaving him on the bench. Maybe non-bench boosters are more inclined to keep some of these Newcastle guys, because it does seem to be a big Newcastle United exodus ahead of game week 33. The next player here is Cole Palmer, and everyone who owns Cole Palmer is finally selling him. The last few Cole Palmer owners will be Cole Palmer owners no more. Off he goes, see you later, and we've got some big money transfers to replace him with as well. Those who kept Gabriel for the last few weeks, most of whom seem to be selling him now finally. So yeah, we've seen over the last few weeks, Gabriel, his ownership is gradually been dropping. Again, those who are keeping Gabriel seem to be either those on a free hit this week or those who are not bench boosting this week. So if you are bench boosting this week, then Gabriel is definitely going to be a sell for you. After that, another Newcastle defender, Burn. Foden is being given up on by around half of our experts, with the other half looking to keep Foden and hope for the best ahead of the double game week, hoping he can get some minutes. Some people are selling Isak, but at 99% ownership last week with just 10 transfers out, we're still seeing the vast majority of experts keeping Isak in their team. So yeah, that's a real big note. I know some people are looking for Isak replacements this week just because he doesn't have a double game week, and if you're free hitting in game week 34 anyway, the fixtures from game week 35 don't look too great for Newcastle, but generally he is a keep, but there are still some selling him. And after that, we've got a few other players that you may have in your team, Kirkes and a couple of Newcastle defenders and midfielders, Trippier, Gordon as well. So the basic thing right now is if you are free hitting next week, and particularly if you're bench boosting right now, Newcastle players seem to be the players to sell, and we're going to be replacing them with a lot of double game week players and maybe some non-double game week players as well. But before we have a look at those replacements, if you haven't done already, please do drop a like on the video. When there's a lot of transfer data, these videos take so long to compile. I do all of this stuff manually just because I think it makes for better detail, and I can make sure everything is perfect with all of the data that we have, no mistakes, anything like that. So I want to bring you guys the best content, and a like goes a long way to supporting that. Of course, if you want to follow along with the expert strategy and team every single game week, make sure you hit that subscribe button. So here they are, the transfers in, and Morgan Rogers is Mr. Popular this week. 38 transfers in for him this week. Last week he was already owned by around a quarter of our experts, but that is going to be going up ahead of game week 33 with 38 new owners. The majority of our experts will have Morgan Rogers in their FPL team come the game week 33 deadline. No surprises there. He is a popular player among everyone right now, but this is the surprising pick today. Connor Bradley, 22 transfers in for him among experts, particularly those looking to bench boost and looking for a defender with a nice fixture in game week 33. Liverpool face Leicester. It's a good fixture, particularly if you are looking for those clean sheet points, and if so, maybe Bradley is going to be the answer to your problems. The only issue with Bradley is that Trent Alexander-Arnold is back in training, and it could be that Trent returns to the Liverpool starting lineup from game week 34 onwards. So this one comes with a warning. Bradley is probably good for this Leicester fixture, but he is very much a one-week punt. Do you want to take a one-week punt on a defender? Well, a lot of the experts think yes. I am not so sure, but this video is not about my opinion. After that, we see some of the more expensive midfielders. Saka with 16 transfers in and De Bruyne with 14 transfers in. But what's interesting here is although Saka and De Bruyne seem roughly equivalent in their transfers in this week, Saka was already owned by so many of the experts and will be up to 90% owned ahead of game week 33. De Bruyne still remains a differential, so if you're trying to take a risk, you're trying to do something a little bit special in the double game week, maybe De Bruyne is a nice alternative for you. He was on nobody's radar last week with 0% ownership, but up to 14% now. That's not nothing. That is still a trend. Rashford is also on this list after another good performance in the Champions League, and with him now starting, I believe, 4 out of the last 5 games in all competitions for Aston Villa, able to play a striker or on the wing. It seems that Rashford is a pretty popular pick here. 12 transfers in addition to the 10 that owned him last game week. He is going to be a player owned by around a fifth of experts this week. So it could be, again, a nice risky differential for you guys to go for, maybe instead of Rodgers or maybe as well as Rodgers. You could go for both here. Kivior, few transfers in for him, 11 new owners. Saliba, 9 new transfers in for him as well. The Arsenal defense continues to be popular. Ruben Dias has come out of the woodworks as the second most popular Man City pick, or Man City buy, ahead of this week. And finally, we see Konsa with 7 new transfers in if you're looking for a cheap defender, and Watkins with 7 transfers in as well. So Watkins, not crazy popular, I can't lie. I think with the minutes, a little bit of a doubt at the moment around Watkins. We can't really predict his minutes too well. He is quite expensive. Most of our experts think it's probably better off to just stick with Isak, but there are a few going for Watkins considering he is just one of 3 forwards with a double game week this week. Honestly, the options are slim in the forward position, so maybe Watkins can do a job, but maybe Isak is just the guy to keep. Let's see what the template looks like now that those transfers have gone through. And I should say that the average game week 32 score is 47 points. That is before the Newcastle Crystal Palace game on Wednesday. I'm recording this video before that game kicks off, so yeah, we'll get a better update on where the average rank is after that game has taken place, because currently the average rank is down around 2,000 places. But with pretty much all of our experts, with 3 Crystal Palace, 3 Newcastle, and a captain from Newcastle or Crystal Palace as well, I'm expecting this average rank to go up and the average score to go up maybe significantly here, because there's a lot of players left to play in the expert squad right now. But let me know, guys, how are you doing? Are you beating the expert average rank? Have you used the expert tips to help you beat the average rank? And what is your game week 32 score as well? Can you beat the experts this week? 91% are in the top 1 million, 42% in the top 100k, and 14% in the top 10k. But as I say, I expect those numbers to improve as we go through the final game of game week 32. And indeed, in game week 33, with the experts so heavily weighted towards bench boosting in game week 33, I think we're going to see some pretty big gains this week, really, for the expert average rank. I think it's going to go up a decent amount. So kind of looking forward to seeing how high it can soar, particularly with free hit in game week 34 as well. It could go crazy. But regardless, this is the template. Raya and Areola, the goalkeepers, not really much movement there. Gvardiol and Munoz, not much movement. Small increases to Saliba and Konsa. And Connor Bradley becomes the new differential defender as your 5th spot here. He's just the 5th most popular one. The 5th defender slot, there is going to be a bit of variation in that slot for you guys, but Bradley has entered the conversation after his 22 new transfers in midfield. Salah is still at 100%. Saka takes the number 2 slot. He's up to 90% owned. Ismail Assar, just a 2% drop, but he's still going to be at 80%. Rodgers up an incredible 38% to take him to 61% ownership. And we've got a new player in the 5th midfield slot, and it's actually Savinho. Even though he's only gone up 2% in ownership, the huge drop off for Jacob Murphy has meant that Savinho's just kind of snuck in there. There are a couple of other players that are around 24%, maybe just under. The likes of De Bruyne, the likes of Rashford, these are all players that could also maybe occupy that 5th midfield slot. But technically, the 5th most popular midfielder among our experts right now is going to be Savinho. And no change in the forward slots. Marmoush, Mateta, and Isak remain the top 3. However, Isak, with his 10% ownership loss, has dropped him down to the 3rd most popular expert forward, with Marmoush and Mateta a little bit ahead of him there. So there we go. That is the expert template. Let's suggest some transfers based on everything we've learned so far. So we can do combo transfers this week, and I think if you are looking to free up some money, there are a couple of ways of doing that. If you have Palmer in your team, you could move to Saka, who is a similar price. But if you drop him down to a De Bruyne, that may allow you enough money to upgrade Murphy to Rashford, or maybe Rodgers if you can't afford to do the Murphy to Rodgers move, for example. Foden down to a Rodgers or a Rashford or someone like that, maybe even Savinho, could also allow you to make an upgrade elsewhere in your team. Maybe a Livramento up to Saliba could work if you are downgrading Foden. We've got Isak to Watkins here, another potential downgrade you could make in order to make an improvement elsewhere in your team. So if you're looking for combo transfers, Palmer, Foden, Isak, probably the players to think about removing, because there are some decent options around their price, but lower enough to give you a little bit of money spare to upgrade a second player in your team. But the direct transfers, I think, is what it's all about this week. And I've listed these simply in order of popularity among experts. These are the most popular transfers that our experts are making this week. So first of all, Murphy to Rodgers. Really straightforward. If you can afford to make that tiny upgrade, then it's a slam dunk transfer. Super obvious, very, very safe, and very, very sensible. After that, Livramento to Bradley is obviously going to be very, very popular. Palmer to Saka is also pretty popular, although we have seen some Foden to Saka moves as well. Similarly, Palmer or Foden could be moved to De Bruyne. Not quite as popular as Saka, but it's still pretty popular. Gabriel to Saliba is again a popular move this week, as it has been for the last 2 weeks. And finally, just a small percentage of our experts will be moving Isak to Watkins this week. So if you really want to go for that, that is absolutely fine too. But again, a warning on Isak to Watkins, that is the majority of our experts, the vast majority of our experts are holding on to Isak rather than moving him to Watkins. So really, it's the transfers towards the top of this list that are maybe your priorities, and then you can work your way down depending on what players you already have in your squad. So with all that said, what about captains? I know you guys have been thinking, who is the best captain this week? Who are the experts captaining? I was super curious about this one as well, and I'm pretty excited to share that news with you because it is Bukayo Saka. Yes, I'm sure a lot of you guys expected to see Omar Marmoush at the top of this list, but no, it is Saka who just sneaks ahead of him by around 6%. Yes, 46% of our experts will be captaining Saka against Ipswich and Crystal Palace, and the higher upside of Saka, despite the higher risk, may be a big reason for that. The fixtures are better, the points potential is better with penalties, set pieces, of course, the extra points for goals and clean sheets. There's a lot that goes into Saka's favour, but what Marmoush has is the guaranteed minutes against Everton and Aston Villa. And despite those guaranteed minutes, I think our experts just slightly prefer Saka in their team. That said, there's not too much to split these players. So if you firmly disagree with the experts, then of course Marmoush is still a fabulous captain option this week, and a lot of our experts agree with you. However, if you are just looking for some kind of coin toss to help you make that captain decision, we have got the information that Saka is going to be the most popular expert captain pick for game week 33. Not sure I expected that one, but there you go. After that, De Bruyne, 7%. He is the number 3 here, again against Everton and Aston Villa. De Bruyne has done very well in previous double game weeks, but does he have the legs to play both games in the double, particularly with the FA Cup fixture on the weekend after the midweek fixture? I'm not so sure about that one, but if you're looking to take a bigger risk than even Saka, then De Bruyne is maybe your option there if you are bringing him into your team. What's interesting is that a lot of people bringing in De Bruyne to their FPL team are actually captaining him as well. So you have to wonder, if all of our experts had De Bruyne in their team, would we see even more experts captaining him? I think maybe, genuinely. After that, 4% Salah on his single game week, but it is against Leicester. And Marino was an interesting inclusion that I really didn't expect to see, but three experts, that is a trend, a very small trend, don't get me wrong, but there is a few experts captaining Marino. Genuinely, I don't know what to think about that one, but we have seen time and time again, sometimes the differential captains go crazy. I think last week, a couple of our experts captained Harvey Barnes, and we know what's happened so far in game week 32 with Barnes. So, hey, you never know, maybe they're onto something, but maybe the safer picks towards the top of this captain list is going to provide more FPL points. We've got 6% of our experts using the triple captain this week. A lot did use it last week, a lot used it in previous weeks as well, and some more of our experts will be saving their triple captain until game week 36. But if you do have your triple captain, it is definitely an option. Saka or Marmoush are probably the players you will be going for if you are activating that chip. But there you go, guys. What do you think about that? What do we think about these captain picks? Were you expecting this? Are there any surprises here? And who will you be captaining? Do you think the experts have got it right or wrong? Really curious to get your feedback on not just this, but everything we've seen in this video, because I think it's a really, really interesting week for moves. All of our transfer strategy plans and strategies for our chips all starting to come together now, and it's a big week of opinions. So Let me know everything that you're thinking right now. I'm so curious. But anyway, guys, if you enjoyed this one, do drop a like, do subscribe if you're new around here. Check out another video. Buy, sell, keep, avoid is gonna be this side, I believe. Yes, it's gonna be right there. So check that out, and I'll see you tomorrow for my team selection video. See you later, mates. Bye bye.